So you've decided to parent more consciously, but how do you guide your kids to self-discipline when they simply won't listen? Welcome to Empowered Kids Deep Village Talk. You're here because you know that every family has the potential to be great, and you're willing to push the boundaries of your mindset so that you can create the family of your dreams. Today, we're joined by an amazing parenting coach, Jacqueline Coe. Jacqueline is an author, speaker, transformational parenting coach, and mentor. She's also the founder of the Intelligent Parenting Academy, which is an online searchable curriculum of digestible programs that provides new skills, knowledge, and understanding to help guide parents along the parenting journey. Jacqueline is passionate about helping parents rediscover their children without the blur of the generational patterns. So, Jacqueline, welcome to Village Talk.
Welcome, Nicole, and welcome to the viewers.
All right, so we've got, as we were saying before, a big question today. So this question comes from Sherry, and Sherry writes, I'm a single mom. I have two boys, 7 and 12 years old. I do not spank, but I am guilty of threatening to get a belt and of yelling. My question is, what do you do to help discipline? I try talking to them, asking them questions to see what's wrong or why they do things, but they are so hard headed and they pretty much only listen to their dad who isn't in the house with us. Plus, my oldest is extremely emotional, for lack of better words. When he has to do something he doesn't want to, when he has to do something that he doesn't want to or like clean up after himself or take the trash out, he almost always cries and gets an attitude. I don't know what to do anymore. Any help and suggestions will be greatly appreciated. All right, Jacqueline, that's a big one.
Yes, that is a very big one, and I just need to say up front that it's not a quick fix question. So what I'm going to be doing is unpicking this question, and hopefully this will empower more parents than just what was the name? Did you say of the parent?
Sherry.
Sherry. So thank you, Sherry, for sending this question because it's going to be useful for not just you, hopefully, but for all parents that are listening. Because the only approach I can make to this is one of dissecting it down into the 5 segments that make up this question. So, first of all, I'd like to say things are clearly not working the way you have been doing things. And if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same result. So, therefore, to succeed at whatever it is you want to create is going to have to be created in a whole new way. Wouldn't you agree? And I hope you've got those 3 statements. Things are clearly not working. If you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same result. And so to succeed at whatever it is you want, then you'll need to create a whole new approach. When you become parents, for the first time, you are embarking on a journey and along the same path as those parents who have gone before. Now, that is a path of working in the dark, making things up as you go along, not sure whether you're doing the right or wrong thing, and hoping everything will turn out okay.
Sounds like
Okay?
every day.
Yes. And so after 12 years of being on this path and working in this way, these are the issues that Sherry personally has landed with. But I don't want to make this personally about Sherry. This is about all parents because the overriding problem that all parenting questions are derive from having to work in this old parenting model, I call it, the parenting model of working in the dark, making things up as you go along, not sure if you're doing the right or wrong thing, and hoping, fingers crossed, everything will turn out okay. Okay, so that is the overriding issue, not just for Sherry, for all parents that are suffering issues, problems, whatever you want to call it. And that is what I call the old parenting model. I am about introducing a new parenting model to parents, and it's about preparing to succeed. So it's moving away from surviving into a way of surviving, moving away of surviving into a way of thriving. It's a new model, and it's what I call 3 quick fixes to great parenting, which is a 9-step process, and that's the whole thing. But the whole underlying context is preparing to succeed. Okay, so hopefully that sort of makes things a bit clear as to where we are. So let's just work through this question. And I'm not sure if others will have the question in front of them or whether they can follow through with this, but I will read it out section by section. So the first part of this problem, which is a 5-layer problem, is I'm a single mum. I have two boys, 7 to 12 years old. I do not spank, but I am guilty of threatening to get the belt and yelling. Right. Now, what I want to identify here is 2 different disciplines, 2 different approaches, but it's something that's evolved over time via society. So years ago, the belt was used, hitting was used, and then society made the decision that that isn't going to happen anymore, and it's got to be approached in a different way. But they didn't say to parents how this new way was going to be. So the old way was through physical discipline parents were using. However, we've got a bigger issue now because we've got all this emotional health and well-being going on in the background, is now the discipline is moved on to more emotional discipline. And what that means is, yes, you're not hitting them, but there is the threatening and the yelling happening. And this is a very precarious way of dealing with children, which then moves. So I hope I've made that clear. I've got to be brutally honest here in saying the truth as it is, so that parents can make a new decision. So because only they can make a new decision to do it a different way. There's no blame. There's no guilt. It's just how it is. They had no other option because there was no other choice than to do it
You
the
know what
old
I
way.
love about what you're saying, Jacqueline? For a lot of
Mm.
parents that are at the beginning of the journey of thinking, I want to parent more consciously. I want to parent in more
Yes,
of a connected way. Sometimes those
yes,
words feel ambiguous. They're just buzzwords, like words that
yes,
we throw around, but nothing that
yes,
we can really feel in a very tangible way in our
yes,
lives. And so for a lot of parents, they fall into the trap of if I stop hitting, somehow that
yes,
equals stop controlling, and they
yes,
don't realize that the need and the desire to control another human being,
mm,
whether it's by hitting you or threatening to hit you or in any other means, it's still
mm,
the same place, and the
yes,
dynamic of the relationship is
yes,
exactly the same.
yes. It's still a discipline, which will move us on to the second part of the question. But just to say there, I totally agree with that. And I just want to clarify so that it's not something that people don't understand or parents don't understand. Conscious parenting is about making good choices. And what that means is it's a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win for you as an individual parent. It's a win-win for you as a couple. And it's a win-win for the individual children. And it's a win-win for the family unit as a whole. That is conscious parenting, when you take all those perspectives into perspective, if you like. That's what conscious parenting is. It's not easy. You have to bring everything out into the light and make decisions around all of that. It's not about controlling, you are in charge. It's about understanding the situation, putting everything on the table, and then making a decision equals conscious parenting. Does that make sense? Yeah?
It
Okay.
absolutely does.
Right. Okay. So that's just to clarify that. So then we move back to question 2. This is Sherry. My question is what to do. What my question is what to do to discipline. Sorry, get my tongue around that. Right. Now, discipline has got to go out the window. It's not about discipline. End of. I want you to take that in. Parenting is about leading by example and guiding through questioning and setting everything up to be that way. And now I just want to say the intelligent parenting mantra. Parenting is not about being in control of your child. It's about having the skill, knowledge, and understanding to confidently guide them through. And that's it. Parenting is not in control of being in control of your children. It's about having the skill, knowledge, and understanding to confidently guide them through. That is your role. Okay, so that's the answer to part 2 of this question. How do I discipline? You don't. It's about leading by example, guiding through questioning.
Jacqueline,
So,
I'm gonna push you a little bit there, and
yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because I think for a lot of parents that are at the beginning of this journey of trying to change their approach to parenting,
yeah,
that could feel far out. Like,
yes,
what do you mean we don't discipline? Then and this is what you get. You just leave them to run wild. Like they move
yeah,
from one
okay,
extreme to another, right?
yeah.
Um, and then
Okay,
when you say it's about being the best model you can be, for a lot
yeah,
of parents, and especially it's the tone of this question. I
yes,
get that I have to model the right behavior, but my kids simply don't listen to me. So
yes.
how do I close that gap if we're not going to rely on discipline?
Right. It's about not having that gap in the first place. When you start from the right place, that gap, that discipline doesn't exist. The only way I can describe it is like if you were on a horse and you're guiding this horse by reins, okay? And so you're moving along and you're nudging to the left and nudging to the right. So through the reins, you're guiding them. So there's no discipline there. There's no control there. It's just guidance. I want to go that way. I want to go that way. So what you're doing is you're steering your children, but you've got to give them enough rein to learn life's journey as well. So it's a balance between the guidance and the allowing them to learn. For example, if when your child's learning to walk, what do? They're stood against the settee and you're guiding them saying, come on, you can come forward and hold their hands out, and you allow them to fall over, you allow them to test it and try it themselves. You're just there guiding them. So whether you're guiding them from the front or guiding them from behind, it's still the same thing. It's a skill. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And it's so beautiful because, and I love the fact that your metaphor was one of guidance, because for me, that's what the word discipline really means. We've
Yeah.
really tainted that word and
Yes.
made it
Yeah. As
something
a
about,
negative. Yeah.
exactly. We
True.
stand as the punisher, but really for
Yeah.
me, it means to guide, and to guide one to be able to live out in accordance to their own sense of values.
Yes.
And that really does require that room to be able to explore,
Yes.
but knowing that there's a safe place to fall back on and
Yep.
somebody believing in you and nudging you along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the second part of the question. The third part is I try talking to them, asking them questions to see what's wrong or why they do, but they are so hard-headed. Right, this is in two. This needs to be split into two things. This question, so I am trying to talk to them, asking them questions. Now, what this is what is the saying? You shut the gate after the horse is bolted. It's too
Mhm.
late. You know, when it gets to that hard-headed, hard-hitting stuff, the question's too late. That's what's got to come from the beginning, that soft, gentle guidance, questioning, understanding them, allowing them to understand their emotions through that questioning. And so, the first part of this question, the answer to that, it's too late. You're not going to get the response you want by doing it too late along the road as a solution to the problem that you have. And what needs to be worked on and unpicked is the hard headedness. Now, that needs to be unpicked between a coach, stroke mentor, and the client to understand, what does that mean? What is their behavior in that hard-headed? Why do you think they're behaving like that? It's unpicking that for the parent so that they can understand why the child is doing that. You know, it's just, parenting is so complex. There's so many different genres within parenting that parents need to have knowledge of. You know, human behavior, relationships, psychology. Um, you know, I've researched into all these things, and universal laws. What that means is not the woo-woo universe; it's universal laws to us as human beings. They're universal laws that apply to us all. I've only got to say it once and it applies to us all, which is what I'm doing here. I'm saying it once, but it applies to us all. So thank you, Sherry, for the question, because you're helping more
All of us,
than yourself
absolutely.
with
Absolutely.
this.
The notion of hard-headed is a funny one for me. So even today, I actually was talking to my dad and we were joking about, oh dad, all of your kids are hard-headed. Because for me, and when I take a step back from the lightheartedness and the jokes that I was
Mm,
having,
yeah.
really, I think as parents, we get in this space of feeling like our kids are hard-headed or they're not listening because
Yeah.
they're not catering to our agenda.
Yes.
So this is what we
Absolutely.
want, and this is when we want
Yes.
it. And if you're not catering to my agenda, something's wrong with you. And
But
now,
that's the hard-headedness.
exactly,
If
exactly,
you're not doing this, if you're not, that's where it's
exactly,
from, and they're fighting back that.
exactly,
So what you're seeing is your own hard-headedness towards them.
exactly. Absolutely beautiful.
Gosh, yeah. So sorry, I apologize for having to say that. So I came in so quickly with that,
No,
but
it's absolutely right. Like a lot of the times, what we get back from our kids and from all intimate relationships
it's
really
what we give.
is what we give. They're just standing as a mirror to show us really what we're projecting.
Yes, yes, and that's hard, I think, for some parents to hear. But until they hear it, they're not going to be able to change their environment. in what's happening around them. And I think it's important, that these things are said. And this is all, again, additions to conscious parenting. I'm just making you conscious of these facts so that you can make a different choice. The hard bit is for parents is to accept this, but as adults in the situation, the children aren't going to be able to do this for you. This is what the hit back is. They're saying, no, this isn't right. They're saying we want to be parented in a different way. We don't like the way it's happening at the moment. And it's about grabbing that. It's so difficult to parent consciously because you have to remove yourself from taking things too personally. It's like one accepting all these new things that are going to be coming out and to be said, to be able to change parenting into a more empowering place for the parents and for the children. Because I I want to be able to empower parents so that they can then empower their children. That's how it works because they are the adults in the situation.
Beautiful.
Right. So then we move on to, and they pretty much only listen to their dad who is not in the house with us. Right. So what this is another place where it has to be unpicked. One has to understand what your relationship, Sherry, is with your husband, not just Sherry. There's a lot of single parents where the father and the mother are living apart, but it is still possible in a consciously parenting way to do this for their children successfully. So, first of all, it's about understanding your relationship with each other. If it's conflicting, then it's going to be very difficult because children will go to least resistance because they're so emotionally immature. So, it's just easy for them to move towards that direction. And also, it seems like they can play one off against the other, but that's what the reflection of how you are parenting them. It's just a reflection of that, if you see what I mean. If one's easier and one's more difficult, and obviously when you're living with one parent, it seems more difficult because you've got them out there all the time. And so when they go to the father, if they go there, it's a lot easier because he's fresh and not had them all the time. So how it's got to be both in both places. The two parents have to have a good relationship and they have to parent in the same way separately, in agreement, aligned, and together. That's the only way. If there's conflict happening between the parents, the children will play that off. And they're not because they are more intelligent than parents, it's because that's what the parents are allowing, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So that's another thing to have to unpick. So the last bit is it the last bit? No, yes, it's the last bit. Plus, my oldest is extremely emotional, for lack of a better word. When he has to do something he doesn't want to do, like clean up after himself or take out the trash, he almost always cries and gets an attitude. Right. Now, what this means is I can only explain what this means, okay? Because who I am is a parent's parent and a child's voice. So I can hear what the parent's saying, but I'm replying as the child's voice. So I'm now going to be that in this question. So he almost always cries and gets attitude. Right. So the crying bit is the passive side and the attitude is the defensive side. So, like I said, children's emotions are really immature, and they don't really understand. But what they do understand is the pattern. It's like tidy up the room. As soon as that's like a trigger, and so that sets off the trigger in understanding the pattern. It's like, oh my god, if I don't clear the room, I'm going to get shouted at. La, la, la. That's the crying bit. So he's going through the whole process in front of you before it's even happened. They've learned, it's learnt behavior. So he's learnt that he's going to get upset. So he gets upset in the moment. And then he thinks, oh, right, I'm going to fight against this because I need to be strong. And that is what is happening before he's even got to the room. He's experienced this pattern of how you've created disciplining them. And that's why he does that. It's
You
as
know
simple as that.
what's beautiful about that? So I share with parents how our interaction moves each of us into different brain states. So you've got two brain states. You can be in this state of growth, where you have these lighter emotions. This is when you feel happy and playful and loving and kind, because you're in that space that's expansive and open, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then you've got this defensive brain state. And this is when I'm closed down. So my
yes,
amygdala has been activated because something is perceived as a threat.
yes,
And we all know fight, flight, or freeze. There's also faint.
yeah,
And really, what I want parents to get is when you get any of those behaviors. So if I'm crying, it's because I'm frozen. Or if I give in, and sometimes parents
yeah,
feel when kids give in, they're being good kids.
yeah,
But really, that's still in the same, because they're trying to appease you
yeah.
as their way of
They're being
defending themselves.
disempowered themselves in that
Exactly.
doing that.
Or when they put up a fight, recognize that what it is an indication that in this moment, my kids don't feel safe.
Yes,
And then you can take a step back and go, okay, well, what's happening that doesn't
yes,
make them feel safe, as opposed to
yeah,
being triggered yourself by the fact that he's crying.
yes. So it's about them being a trigger for your behavior. Step back, conscious parenting again. Don't take it personally. Step back, look at what's just happened, understand why it's happened. This is why I'm just giving you a little insight into that. So even though I'm not solving this question, because it's not a quick fix, and hopefully you can see that now after this conversation, it's about understanding how to parent differently. And I know that's difficult because you've got to where you are through the skill, knowledge, and understanding that you have. But if it's not working, then the only choice is a new way. This is why I have created the definitive parenting handbook, and this is for couples who are deciding to be parents, couples with a new baby on the way, and seasoned parents who want to take their parenting experience to the next level. Okay, so so that's about picking parents, seasoned parents up where they are now. They don't like where they are and they want to do it a different way. Hopefully, like Sherry, she's got to the point where she can't cope anymore. So the only other choice, because you can keep continuing, you'll keep getting the same results, and you'll be pushing more each other, and it'll just get worse. So you have to have another way. This is who I am because I know this, I see this. So I know that I've got to offer you another way. So this is the parenting handbook that I've created. It's 3 quick fixes to great parenting. It's a 9-step process, and you're going to hear a lot more about it because I'm just launching. Literally, this is like the first day of speaking about it, and I will be launching into social media, etc. So I'll give you a couple of links at the end so that you can keep
That would be
up.
beautiful. And we leave the links in the description of the video so that everybody can follow through the
Good.
links and get a copy. Because I think we started this discussion, Jackie, saying
Yeah.
that this is a really complex conversation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of a lot of dynamics happening within the
Yes.
question.
Yes.
And so what I would say to Sherry, obviously we can't solve the world in a 30-minute
No.
conversation, but dive deeply, start looking at your emotions and
Yeah.
how you manage emotions as a family,
Yeah.
and then look at how you communicate. And so I think tap into Jackie's resource and all the resources that you can find at Empowered Kids, because it's I think the very first thing, and I'm gonna just put it up as a reminder, that Jacqueline said is so pertinent. If you keep doing the same thing,
Thing.
you're just gonna
Keep
get the same
the same
result.
result.
Yeah, and so at some point you have to realize, if I want it to be different in my family, I have to learn different so I can do different. Beautiful.
So yeah.
Jacqueline,
So
thank you so much for joining us today. This, I think, was a really big question and a difficult one, but I hope that Sherry and all parents are listening and can take away some tips on some of the things that they have to begin to look at differently if they are to move away from that power struggle dynamic and create a more connected and team-like atmosphere in there.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining
That's
us.
okay. Yeah, no worries.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We're all about sharing and supporting this village. So if you found value in this episode, be sure to share it with your family and friends. And remember, this is a weekly show. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you'll be notified of our next episode. As we always say in the village, you're just one connection away. With love and gratitude, empower us. Until next time.